Can you introduce yourself?
Of course. My name's Alexander Pratt. I'm a senior at Oklahoma State University. I'm majoring in international business with minors in finance and Middle Eastern studies.
Okay. And when and where did you study abroad?
I studied abroad at the American University of Sharjah in Sharjah, United Arab Emirates, which is about 30 minutes away from Dubai. In fact, I could see the Burj Khalifa from campus on a clear day, so that was pretty cool. And that was my entire junior academic year from 2015 to 2016.
Wow, so one entire year.
Mm-hmm.
And what did your coursework consist of? Like, what did you do while you were in country?
Yeah, I studied mostly finance and accounting, and then I supplemented that with Middle Eastern culture, history, classes like that. I learned about the wars in the region, about civil society and domestic politics and stuff like that while I was there.
Okay. And why did you decide to study abroad, let alone for an entire year?
I wanted to study abroad because I wanted to make myself a better candidate when I was looking for jobs. I have a very specific job that I had in mind before I went, and I knew that kind of expanding my horizon as far as getting out of the country, testing myself, getting out of my comfort zone, I knew that would look really good to a future employer, and I wanted to be sure to get that experience while I could when I was in college.
Okay. And were finances a concern for you? And if they were, how did you afford to study abroad?
At first, finances didn't seem like they would be because I was fortunate enough to have family put aside some money for me to go to college. But I found out that I was going to have to pay up front for my experience, and that led to me applying for a few scholarships and grants. I actually got a grant for $8,000 for my experience that covered airfare, enough for me to have 2 round-trip tickets so I could come home for Christmas, and also for my room and board while I was there. In addition to that grant, I got a job working sales 40 hours a week over the summer before I left, and I also sold my car before I left so that I could have an extra few $1,000s to travel and, pay for books and stuff. So
Yeah, you're going to be gone for a year.
exactly.
And can you tell us if while you were abroad, if you experienced any discrimination, or did you feel like you were treated any differently because of how you identify?
Of course. Now, when I was abroad, there wasn't a lot of discrimination, I guess, based on... I guess I just didn't face a lot of discrimination. There were times where we would talk about sensitive subjects, whether it's about Islam or terrorism or something like that, and people would have preconceived notions of what they thought my preconceived notions were. So that was a bridge or a gap that had to be bridged, but it was pretty easily bridged once they found out that I wasn't, I guess, assuming things about them. I would say most people are pretty cordial and nice, generally, to me, anyway.
Okay. And thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
And did you feel like you had a support system or people you could go to express concerns that you may have had while you were in country?
I definitely did. I studied abroad through API, which is one of Oklahoma State's affiliated partners, and they have resident directors in country that have been there for a number of years who act as advisors while you're over there. So whenever I had cultural questions or whenever I was frustrated by something or the way that the university did things or frustrated by an interaction I had in class, I could always go to my resident director and she would help explain things to me, especially in the first few months when I was still adjusting to the culture. And she was very, very helpful, and she actually helped make my experience as good as it was. In addition to her, the program coordinator over there, like the head of their study abroad office, was very familiar with culture shock with Americans coming over to the Middle East. So she was a very good resource as well. And then, of course, my parents and friends back home were always willing to lend their ear to me whenever I was describing a problem that I was having or a challenge that I was facing. They tried to give me advice as best as they could as well. So.
Okay. And last question is, if you were to give advice to a student who is a little bit concerned or hesitant about studying abroad, what advice would you give them?
I would say that it's definitely normal to feel apprehensive. I definitely did when I thought about moving to the Middle East for a year, especially with all the things that I'd heard and read in the media and from my friends and parents who were super scared about me going over there. But I think that the benefits that I gained as far as getting a new outlook on myself, the reflection that I've been able to do, has allowed me to see that the apprehension, while it's normal, it's very short-lived, and whatever you gain from study abroad, you'll look back and you'll see that apprehension and you'll think, why was I even nervous in the first place? You'll gain so much that you can apply to your professional life, to your personal life, to your friendships and relationships as well, that it just outweighs everything that you might be feeling nervous about at the beginning. So I say just do it, make that first step. Walk in your study abroad office and ask a few questions. Maybe if you had a friend or if you know of somebody that studied abroad, just ask them how it was and how they felt about it. And I'd be willing to bet that 95% of those interactions are going to end with that person with a big smile on their face, willing and ready to share whatever they gained from their experience with you.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, no problem.